not just yet. Okay, aloha everyone. Mahalo for attending. So today is a Ano ai ke aloha ya kako. Mahalo for your patience and thank you for joining us today for a very important bifurcated bill signing and news conference. First, Governor Josh Green will sign 6 good governance bills to increase transparency and trust in state government. Facilitated questions and answers with the media will follow promptly after remarks conclude, and the formal bill signing will commence shortly thereafter. After a brief intermission, Governor Green will sign SB 2919, which relates to short-term rentals. Without further ado, it is my privilege to introduce Governor Josh Green.
Aloha. Good to see everyone. Speaker, great to see you. Mayor, fantastic. Just another good day. I'm grateful to the legislature for giving us good legislation. And in this particular case, we're going to first speak about some of the good governance bills that have been a part of the 2-year process that we've undergone to really take action against concerns that were legitimately raised about making sure that politics is clean as we can make it. So I'm grateful to be doing 6 bills today. We've discussed in our team kind of in a broader way about a Hawaii that we deserve, which means good government, accountability, and transparency. We've continued to try to add people that can help get documents out to just let people read and see what's going on in government. Some of that's what you're going to see. Mostly people, though, need to have faith in their elected officials. We do have elections, and that takes care of it to a degree, but a lot of people feel disconnected from government, or they don't know what happens at the state capitol. They don't know what's in bills, and we want to change that. So you're going to see that that's reflected in the legislation today. Last session was a very big session, and there was a collective effort from the community, the legislature, the public, many other stakeholders, which resulted in pretty big changes at the ethics level, lobbying, and campaign spending in our state. Today I'm going to sign, well, it's 6 bills, but I'm going to focus on 3 right now. One bill is House Bill 1598. I'm not sure we have a slide about that. It provides some clarity and assists boards in distributing what the actual content of what they're doing is. Gives people time to read testimony, to see what we're talking about, to see what the debate truly is. It allows government agencies and the public time to review their documents and packets. Now that sounds boring to a lot of people, but there are people who are very passionate about these documents and are passionate about being able to really have an idea of what is being discussed and the details of that. We want more people involved in government and giving us input. So that's what that will do. So that's one bill. Another bill, House Bill 1881, which is part of the State Ethics Commission package. It updates the amount of fines that can be levied, and it addresses conduct of the lobbyist community. It increases the fine significantly to $5,000 for violations. So again, it is a pretty substantial fine if someone, kind of goes off the reservation, so to speak. So very significant. So I want to, personally thank the judiciary chairs for taking that up. So, boy, you guys really worked hard. So thank you, Tarnas. Thank you, brother. It's good. I don't miss sitting there with you, but I appreciate the work. So it's really been excellent work. That's significant, and I think that's significant to those who, have felt that there has to be a little bit more accountability. So that's happening too. And then finally, House Bill 2072 promotes transparency in the solicitation of funds relating to disasters. Now, in this case, I want to give a special thanks to the Speaker, if that's okay. He was very thoughtful about this. What this bill is about is when the disasters occurred, particularly the Maui wildfire, there were people, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Speaker, there were people who went out and fundraised suggesting that their funds were going to go to charity, to help people who were displaced, who lost their homes. Instead, they were going to PACs, and they were being used politically. And that is kind of a bastard move. So we are trying to stop that, and we're trying to make sure that people, if they're going to fundraise for people when there's a disaster, that goes to those who have suffered. So take bastard activity out of politics, do something right for people. So that's what we're really hoping for in that bill. I don't think it's worded that way, but that is the intent for sure. Okay, so those are the 3 bills that we're starting up with, that we're going to also hear more from our experts we're going to have 2 press conferences today, but it's very good to see us continue to progress on these matters, and it's going to be a process. It's going to be ongoing. There are court cases that's being handled, I think, very thoughtfully by the prosecutors. That's important too. But the legislature has stepped up and passed quite a lot of legislation in 2 years. And so thank you, Speaker, for doing that. Okay, I'll pause there. All right, perfect.
Mahalo, Governor Green. Next, we'd like to welcome Senator Carl Rhodes, the Judiciary Chair for the Senate.
Well, Governor is much better at ad hocing than I am, so I'm just going to read a statement. The legislation enacted today collectively represents continued progress towards ensuring openness in the administration of government and the accountability of private actors. In my role as chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, I'm keenly aware that confidence in government institutions is critical to the survival of our democracy. I'm particularly pleased that Hawaii no longer has one of the lowest administrative fines amounts for ethics violations in the country, as HB 18, House Bill 1881 increases the maximum fine to $500,000. 500,000. Yeah. That'll be a few years in inflation. $5,000 for violations of standards of conduct laws for elected officials, public employees, and lobbyists, which is not $500,000, but still a pretty hefty amount if you're involved in that sort of thing. These measures demonstrate a commitment to maintaining high standards of conduct and is, as Governor mentioned, is a continuation of our efforts from last year. Mahalo.
Bringing that down because we are all not that blessed to be that tall. Mahalo, Senator Rhodes. Up next, please welcome Representative David Tarnas, the chair for the Judiciary of the House.
Aloha, everyone. We have worked hard in the Senate and the House to address some of the critical concerns that the public has about government. People have lost their trust in government, so they really wanted to see us address that through changes in legislation. The legislature really has made progress last session and this session to strengthen our ethics laws and ensure the integrity of our elections and make it easier for citizens to participate and track what our government is doing. This reaffirms the legislature's commitment to transparency, accountability, and improving public trust in government processes. Now, the governor highlighted 3 of the 6 bills that he's going to sign today, thankfully. And I just want to mention a couple of the highlights of the other 3 bills. And one of them, HB 1599, will make it very clear that when government boards and commissions offer the opportunity for the public to provide testimony, they need to offer it both for video testimony as well as audio testimony. Because sometimes it's much better, and people really want to make sure that they can provide that video testimony so that the people in the boards and commissions can really understand what they're saying and why. So we make it easier for that to happen. But we also know that sometimes members of the public can disrupt Zoom meetings by Zoom bombing. And so what we've done is allowed these boards and commissions to be able to handle that so that they can conduct their business efficiently. Another bill, House Bill 1600, deals with a situation where, boards and commissions can establish these permitted interaction groups. And sometimes they get the reports from these permitted interaction groups, and boards will sometimes turn around right away and go into executive session or make decisions based on the reports from these PIGs. That's not appropriate. We want to give the chance for the public to hear the reports from these permitted interaction groups, consider them, and then give them at least 6 days to be able to review that, so that then after those 6 days, the boards and commissions can actually decide what to do based on the reports from those permitted interaction groups. And I think that's just another way to make it easier for the public to track what is going on in these boards and commissions and participate. Finally, the last of these 6 bills that I want to summarize the highlights of is House Bill 1879. This bill is a follow-up to legislation we passed last session. HB 1879 establishes a digital voter guide guidelines for how this is being done. We want to make sure that there's uniform and equitable and coordinated release of information of the contents of the voter information guide. So when someone is filing their candidacy papers, they actually also then provide a statement, 150 words, that describes who they are and what they want to say to the voters that are out there. That digital voter information guide will be available to the public, but through this law that we are, or through this bill that we are going to have signed into law today by the governor, it ensures that the voter information guide is released to the public all at once, and that no one can file an information request to get just one candidate's description. We think that would be unfair. We want to make sure everybody in the public gets it all at the same time, so that's what this bill ensures. So we're trying to improve the integrity of our elections. There's other bills that the governor will be able to consider and hopefully sign into law later on that does other work to improve the integrity of our elections, and I look forward to working with the governor and the administration to make sure that we can answer all the questions that they might have and concerns, because we really do hope that he will sign those into law. So the media plays a big role in our efforts to keep the public informed, so I really appreciate all of you being here today, and thank you to the governor for inviting us to give some comments. Mahalo.
At this time, we'd like to take questions from the media, and I'll welcome the governor back up to the podium. And our first question is from Ashley with HPR.
Hello. So these are steps forward, and going into session next year, were there any bills that didn't make it over that you were interested in seeing, or any ones that you would want the legislature to take up next session?
To be completely candid, I am in the moment right now between these bills and the short-term rental bills and the recovery for Maui. So we will reconvene the group, and surely we'll take recommendations like we have been for the last 2 years. But I almost want to live in this moment and celebrate the work they did. So I don't have a plan yet.
Mahalo, Governor. Our next question and final question comes from Chad Blair, Civil Beat.
Hi, I didn't think I was going to get the mic. This is not on the good government bills, though, so I don't want to violate protocol. So if you want to wait,
Good governance.
it.
We're going to do STR.
Here you
shortly.
go.
Why don't I give you guys a little bit more? Because there's going to be constant discussion about campaign spending rules. There's going to be constant discussion about public financing of elections. These are important issues. These are definitely issues that are never going to go away, and we'll keep making strides. You know, big changes occurred in the last year when we eliminated campaign fundraising during the 4 or 5 months of the legislative process. That was a big change. And so there has been significant movement. This is kind of a process, and I think a lot of what happens in legislative work is it's incremental, but those were some big increments that occurred last session. And also, we are going to have elections this year, and I think a lot of people have done a great job and worked on these things, so we will likely have a lot of the same individuals, but there are even some people retiring, and there'll be new blood, and we take that to heart, so we get their new ideas too.
At this time, I'd like to ask Governor, who's already up there, speakers, and any other invited stakeholders to please gather as we do bill signing and picture taking.
Shall we gather around you? Okay.
So here are some signatures. This is related to campaign finance.
Come on in.
Related to administrative fines. Very, very sexy bill. And then the sunshine laws. And I will say this as I sign these bills, and thanks, and all the work was with the legislative team. It takes a lot of work to make some of these changes, but then it also takes trust that we're going to be serious about implementation. And so our team is really taking seriously the need to have more sunshine in government. We're sharing documents, we're calling people, we're really putting a lot of information out, and we want it to be that way. If we don't meet your standards, asked us to work continuously in that fashion. But we want to put more and more records out into the public eye and let people see we're just trying to help people. If we're not doing enough, please share. But these are great bills that make us accountable. Aloha. And was I allowed to give these pens out, or should? Yes, you're allowed to give these pens out.
You want to get one of those?
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Mahalo. This formally concludes the first part of the bifurcated news conference and bill signing. We will be back after a brief intermission. Ano ai ke aloha ya kako. Thank you for joining us today for the second part of our bifurcated bill signing and news conference this afternoon. At this time, Governor Green will discuss and sign SB 2919, which clarifies our county's authority to regulate the uses of land and structures. Facilitated questions and answers with the media will follow promptly after remarks conclude, and there are 8 speakers. And the formal bill signing will commence shortly thereafter. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to bring to the podium Governor Josh Green.
Aloha. See you. Okay, so we're going to have some slides today with this one too. This is a very big deal, this bill. The passing of Senate Bill 2919 is going to change Hawaii for the better. Okay, I'm going to start with mahalos to Lahaina Strong. We're going to start right there. Thank you. Thank you, brother. It is that moment when people went to the beach, when they spoke up, when after the tragic wildfire that everyone became aware and then even more aware and then even more aware that we had to do something about short-term rentals. It had to happen. I will tell you, it is very rare that within one session a movement takes on like this and then becomes legislation and then cascades into activity. Very unusual. So mahalo for that. Next, thank you. Thank you, Senate. It's really great, Jared. Really great. Thank you, brother. And House leadership, you guys were amazing on this bill. Again, to hear the people, to in the immediate moment pass a bill that is going to enable us to get housing to come back to families, local families, will make an immediate positive difference for our state. It was a disaster that set off some of this discussion, but it has been simmering for a very long time. So what does this bill do? This bill empowers the counties, the mayors and their county councils, and the people that are closest to each community to speak up and to decide what is appropriate use of housing, working together, and what is inappropriate. Hawaii is simply too desirable in many ways, and the forces are incredible for people to come and try to buy short-term rentals, which edges out our people. Now let me go to the next slide. Now, you can see where we are with recovery. And I tossed these numbers up because, as we know, when 8,000 people needed to be housed after the fire, and it was actually more than that because many people went to their loved ones' homes, we could barely find any short-term rentals that would take our local families at first. Even now, there are still about 1,700 people that are in hotels. It's unnecessary because we have so many units out there that should be rented to local people, that should be owned by local people. So that's what's going to happen here. We have begun to build. It still won't be enough unless we take action. And as everyone has heard by now, there are a whole heck of a lot of short-term rentals in our state, many of which were not intended to be that way for a generation or 2 or 3 generations. By many estimates, we have almost 90,000 short-term rentals in our state, but as many as 75,000 of them aren't intentionally meant to be that. They somehow gravitated into that space. That's particularly clear on Maui, and in this case, in West Maui. So thank you, everyone, for speaking up. Let's go to the next slide. So here's what this bill does. It's going to correct some of what we struggled with legally. I will defer, actually, to Mayor Blangiardi to speak, obviously, about how it will impact his process on Oahu. And we know that Mayor Bisson, who was a huge proponent of this piece of legislation, is back on Maui working through the next phase. But let's talk about a little bit what will happen on Maui. Mayor Bisson and the county council there will be able to immediately move to return thousands of units back to people. And in this case, there was a very specific decision, and we're going to bump to the next slide. A specific decision which will allow kind of the revocation of a short-term rental exemption, the Minatoya list that went on for a long time. It's about 2,200 units, I believe, in West Maui alone. Imagine if today or tomorrow we had 2,200 additional units in West Maui. Right now, rented at somewhat sane rates, we would be okay. We would certainly be better, okay? So that's what that's going to do. Now, we are going to continue to rent and direct lease and try to help everybody. But the best thing that we could do is just fix this problem, and that's what this bill begins to do. Let's go one more slide. So a lot of the issues that we have are people just can't afford housing in general in our state. 25% of our residents are struggling to cover their housing expenses. We have a 50,000 unit shortage statewide at least, which is just incredible. And the average home prices have just continued to skyrocket. Now well over $800,000 for the average home price in the state of Hawaii. Nobody can really afford that unless they're extremely wealthy here. But lots of people across the globe can, and that's what happens. So we're going to address the 75,000 illegal short-term rentals in the coming years. We're going to make sure that we keep using our emergency proclamations to build housing. But this bill and this movement can single-handedly push lots of housing back into essentially local families' hands. And I believe, and we're going to hear from the Senate Chair, Jared's going to tell us how this works, I'm sure, legally. But this will, in many ways, help solve our housing problem. If in the course of the next, say, 2 years or 3 years, as all the county councils move on this new provision, if they return those 75,000 illegal units of housing back to our people, we would start talking about a surplus of housing. Could you imagine what that would look like? It would also immediately bring prices down to earth, and we are facing some pretty significant consequences in a year or so when FEMA's gone, when we don't have extra support. We have to have these units back sooner rather than later. So I'm really appreciative of this bill. One more slide, I believe. This is our goals currently. We're going to be building, but boy, would it be good if a lot of the units came straight back from the short-term rental industry back into our market. All I can say is I'm very grateful to, again, the legislature who took this up, the community who fought for it, Pele, incredible, okay? And then we have to stay on this. We cannot let people somehow try to undermine what our local rights are. And we have the right to put our people first. That is really what was evident after the fire. So I'm personally grateful. This is progress. What I hope to see, and I expect it will happen, I hope to see the county council bill pass on Maui really quickly, just like they passed the ability to kind of start moving people away from short-term rentals. Took only a couple weeks. I'd like to see that pass because the language is pretty direct. By like 6 months, a lot of housing on the West Maui side would immediately come back into the market, and then with just a little bit longer runway all across Maui, these properties would come back to people. So let's keep fighting for this. I'm going to definitely be available to answer questions because there will be more legislation in the future, but we're going to hear from all of the experts and all of the participants. But again, hey, thank you. That was a great bill. Okay, thank you. Aloha.
Mahalo, Governor Green. At this time, please welcome the Mayor of the City and County of Honolulu, Rick Blangiardi.
Hi, good afternoon and aloha. Look, this is significant, and so first of all, I want to thank our House and Senate leadership and our legislators, and especially Governor Green for passing this bill and signing it into law. This is not incidental at all. What this bill does for us is it strengthens home rule, and it gives us the ability to breathe new life into Ordinance 22-7, which we had passed earlier. So it's really much needed for us to give us the kind of authority that we really want. So we think we could responsibly regulate place, time, manner, and duration. I think that's really good. And, you know, at the end of the day, the governor's already said it. This is about returning, you know, our neighborhoods. We've said this all along, back to our local residents. One thing I can tell you now, in our last several years, you come to realize you can't build housing fast enough under our circumstances. And so this is an opportunity right now to really augment our housing initiatives and building and be able to get homes, we hope, into the families and restoring the integrity of our neighborhoods. And with that, we're really, really excited. So again, this is a great example of collaboration between the state and the counties, and we're really excited about it going forward. I'll look forward to any questions you might have. Thank you.
Mahalo, Mayor Blangiardi. Up next, Senator Jarrett Keohokalole.
Thank you very much. Mahalo first to the community from Maui who flew all the way over here and kept flying back to make sure that they were in the room where it happened and that it actually happened in that room. I'd like to start by thanking the governor for really being the impetus for the bill. We had originally intended to introduce vacation rental legislation that specifically targeted vans that were being rented out in my community in Kaneohe, and because of the archaic nature of this 65-year-old law, van glamping on Airbnb had not been accounted for when they originally passed this concept, because that was so far from anyone's mind back in the plantation era of the 50s and 60s in Hawaii. And it was actually at the State of the State that I heard the governor speak so aggressively and clearly about the need for us to take action. I've personally wanted to take action on vacation rentals since I got in the legislature in 2015, and the opportunity did not arise until, obviously this year. So thank you very much for your leadership. This really was an effort to follow on with that. It was also an effort to make sure that we did something for the family, the community on Maui. We were at a conference, CNHA put on a conference in the fall on Maui, and I specifically remember a presentation about the math of the housing market in Maui, in West Maui, and how so many of the units were just sitting empty, available for community, if only those owners would elect to put them into use. And so now we don't have to wait for them. We don't have to wait for their generosity. We can allow the counties to take the action that was always intended for them to be able to take by returning that power back to them. And that's really what the bill does. It clarifies a provision in the law that returns that power back to the counties. I have no ill will toward the judiciary and the courts that interpreted this 65-year-old law, but the legislature is a body that can change the law. And so that's what we elected to do this year, and I'm very grateful that my colleagues, and also for the very, very hard work of Representative Evslin on the House side and the House leadership. He is brand new at this and handled it extremely well, and is a model for how to keep calm under pressure. And then finally, to the Hawaii Hotel Alliance, Keko McClellan especially, who helped put the language together and really helped to shepherd the bill along the way with Keani Rollins Fernandez from the Maui County Council. So very grateful to be here and very happy that this is resulting in action right away. It's great. Thank you very much.
Mahalo, Senator Keohokalole. Up next, please welcome Representative Sean Quinlan.
My first time having an interpreter. I feel really special. Okay. First, to Lahaina Strong, this is your victory. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so grateful for the time that you guys were willing to spend off your island to go office to office and lobby every single one of my colleagues to make this happen. So thank you. 8 years ago, I ran my first election, and I was walking door to door in my district, and it became quickly apparent to me how many neighborhoods on the North Shore of Oahu had been totally hollowed out by short-term rentals. And it really starts to pull at the seams, at the fabric of our society when we have these empty neighborhoods, when people don't have neighbors, when people's kids have to move to the mainland. There's been a lot of confusion and I think disinformation about what this measure accomplishes. Very simply, we are closing a gigantic loophole that we did not realize existed until somewhat recently. This is not the state trying to be punitive in any way, shape, or form. This is the state helping the counties to make the best decisions for their citizens, because zoning as a concept is integral to human civilization. Without it, all of this falls apart. So thank you to Speaker Psyche for shepherding this all the way. I'm glad I stuck around long enough to have the right senators and the right governor to make this happen. This bill is not just a statutory imperative, it is a moral imperative, and this is one of the proudest days of my career. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Representative Quinlan. So up next, we're going to do a little bit of a tag team duo action. So please join me in welcoming International Longshore and Warehouse Union Local 142 President Chris West, as well as Unite Here Local 5 Financial Secretary and Treasurer Cade Watanabe.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Cade. We, as a local union that represents hotel, healthcare, and food service workers, the short-term rental issue has been an issue we've been working on since 2017. And finally, things have come together and have gelled, and come together in such a way that my union and Chris's union, the ILW, can stand shoulder to shoulder as well, in support of the community, in support of our members, but also really thankful for the leadership in the legislature and our governor, where we're in this position today. Our communities are not for sale. We need good housing. We need good jobs. Those things are intertwined directly into the fabric of who we are as working people. And so we believe that this is just a start. Each community is different. The needs for each of our communities across the state is different, even in hospitality. And we know that we need a diverse mix of units in hospitality. But short-term rentals have not been good. They haven't been good for a long time. And we're happy that we finally reached this point where we can start to address these issues in terms of how they intersect. So thank you to Speaker and to Senate President, our legislative leaders, but also the governor, because the first time in like 8 years where we're here to get a bill that can get passed, in previous years, we were here to ask the governor to veto some bad legislation. So thank you very much to everybody.
Aloha, I'm Chris West. I am the current president of ILW Local 142. I have the privilege of representing 16,000 working families across the state, 9,000 of which work in the tourism industry. And every morning I get to wake up and fight for local working families. I have that privilege. Today is a momentous day where, speaking as a local boy born and raised in Hawaii and seeing where our Hawaii has changed and how prolific these STRs have become and have chased us out of our neighborhoods, and the outmigration of local working families moving to the Ninth Island, I mean, making it sound like it's a good place to go. And if they choose to go, then that's great. But most are being forced out of Hawaii. So today is an amazing day. I'm very proud to have been able to work with our leaders in the legislature, our governor, who cares about us and has proven it over and over. It's almost it's very humbling to be here today, and I'm very proud that we could be a part of a special day. So thank you, folks.
Mahalo, Chris and Cade. Up next, the Hawaii Hotel Alliance CEO, Jerry Gibson.
Aloha, good afternoon, everybody. Aloha. This is a great day, I gotta tell you. We've been waiting for this for about 8 years. That's how long we've been working on it. Keikoa, Ivan, many of us, many of the mayor certainly has been working on it, and it's wonderful the way this came together. You know, the governor mentioned that there's 89,000 short-term rentals in this state. That's incredible when you think about the population, the whole thing. There's 15,000 only that are legal. That's 75,000 that are illegal. And I was doing a little math, very simple math. That's 148 500-unit hotels. When you think about it, that is incredible. How many illegal ones we actually have. So short-term rentals create a severe shortage for long-term rentals. That's very obvious. Short-term rentals create tremendous amount of traffic on our roads. When you think of Maui, and you're going from Kahului up to Kapalua, and you think of the one-lane highways and that kind of thing, and everybody's running to Costco, picking up their groceries, that's a lot of traffic. That's a lot of traffic on the road. Bill 2919 will now allow each county to decide how to handle their own challenges with short-term rentals. And the council can say, well, let's eliminate all of them. Let's just do hosted. Let's just do the tourism zones. So they have many, many choices to make. And the important thing is, it is the county's choice. And they are going to make those good choices, we hope. Maybe some of them will be a little different than others, but I know that they're going to take action on this very, very good bill. So I just wanted to really, really thank the governor for his support. I want to thank the Senate for their support. Speaker, the House, thank you very much. My friends at ILWU and Local 5, they were with us all the way on this. And I want to thank Ivan Louis Kwan for all the work that he helped with the legal effort on this. And my friend Keikoa from AHLA, and certainly our colleagues from Hawaii Hotel Alliance. So thank you very, very much. This is a wonderful day, and have a good one. Aloha.
Mahalo, Jerry. I am not that tall. Up next, Lahaina Strong, organizer, leader, Po'o Pa'ele Kiakona.
Aloha kākou. O wau no o Pa'ele Kiakona, no ka moku o Lahaina mai au I ka ili ahupua'a o Moali'i. I'm here as a representative of Lahaina Strong. We are now only a few months away from the 1-year anniversary, the day that Lahaina was scorched to ash, displacing so many. But as detrimental and heartbreaking as that day was for us, hardship is nothing new to us. Many of the issues we are facing right now already existed prior to August 8th. But the fire amplified each and every issue exponentially, and now it's unfortunate that our people do not have the comfort of their homes to confide in after a long day of facing adversity. But today, there is hope. After facing the fires of that day, it put us in a state of fight or flight. For Lahaina, we chose to fight. We chose to face our problems head on, and that day ignited a fire within so many of us to stand up and say, ua lava. That's enough. That's where our hope lives. That's where our hope lives, within our people who are so willing to rise and stand face to face with our everyday hardship. One of the biggest challenges we face is our housing crisis, which is exacerbated by the influx and exponential growth of short-term rentals in our neighborhoods, forcing our people to leave. Short-term rentals contribute to the housing crisis. Our people leaving Hawaii contribute to our identity crisis. Because what is Hawaii without its people? It is but another island. And as this fire highlighted this issue to the point where we could no longer be ignored, our people, Lahaina people, and people across all of Hawaii shared that same sentiment, ua lava. We stood, we fought, we pushed back, and here we are. We've turned our passion and our aloha for our place into law that can protect and reshape this place through the lens of our people. We mahalo all the people who have contributed to making this happen, along with our governor, who is so willing to sign this into law. and our mayor in Maui, Mayor Bisson, who is already using this tool for what it was meant for and taking a real bold step forward. In closing, I'll leave with this. Don't wait until your town is scorched and burned to the ground before you decide to take action. We need to switch our way of thinking from saying one day to day one. Hawaii needs our kokua, our voices, and our mana. Our aina has given us all so much, and it's time for us to give back. Today is a huge win, but it is but a small step in the right direction in bringing pono back to Hawaii and us in Lahaina. And Lahaina Strong, we're only getting started. This is just the beginning, and I call upon every keiki o ka aina, every child of this land. E kupa'a kākoa hiki ka aloha aina hopeloa. Let's stand firm in the face of adversity and protect our aina, Lahaina, and the entirety of Hawaii. Eo Hawaii.
Mahalo pa'ele. And finally, it is my pleasure to bring up Housing Hawaii's future Executive Director, Sterling Higa.
Thank you. My name is Sterling Higa, and I live in Haiku on Maui with my wife and our 4 children. I serve as Executive Director of Housing Hawaii's Future, a movement creating opportunities for Hawaii's next generation by ending the workforce housing shortage. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. Today, we are gathered in the state capitol with past governors watching us from their portraits. Today, our state is giving one more zoning power to the counties, the power to phase out short-term rentals. It is an awesome power, one that the counties must wield carefully. Yet today I say that our work is not finished. Our work is not finished until fire survivors' homes are rebuilt. Our work is not finished until the unhoused have safe shelter. And our work is not finished until our children and grandchildren can afford to stay. How do we get there? One step at a time, as Paele said. And we gather to celebrate this step, but we must not confuse it with the finish line. On Maui, where I live, the county has had 60 years, zoning powers for 60 years. In that time, it has not enacted zoning reforms to make housing more affordable. But this year is a tipping point. In February, Mayor Bisson's administration proposed and the Maui Planning Commission voted to legalize more accessory dwelling units. This reform will increase the supply of affordable housing for young families and kupuna alike. This reform will allow multi-generational living and keep families together, and it will also create more housing for fire survivors at no cost to taxpayers. The power to enact this reform sits with the 9 members of the Maui County Council, who have had the power for more than 60 years. Today, surrounded by 60 years' worth of governors, Burns, Ariyoshi, Waihe'e, Cayetano, Lingle, Abercrombie, the state of Hawaii is giving counties yet another zoning power. And we thank you, Governor Green. We thank House and Senate leadership. We thank the advocates and legislators that have got us to this point. But the counties have had the power to solve our affordable housing crisis in statehood. And I think that this is the year that they finally take that burden of responsibility and do it. Bills like SB 2919 give them all of the tools that they need to solve our housing crisis, and we at Housing Hawaii's Future are excited to see leadership from our counties in solving this problem. Thank you.
Mahalo, Sterling. At this time, we'd like to welcome questions from the media, and I will start with Ashley with Hawaii Public Radio.
Hi, this is Polly for Mayor Blangiardi. Can you expand more on what the plans are for Honolulu regarding short-term rentals? Are we going to see maybe phasing out of those non-conforming use permits?
I didn't hear the last part,
the
Ashley.
non-conforming use permits. Do you think that those will be phased out here as well?
I think we're going to be as aggressive as we possibly can. We said from the beginning when I signed Bill 41 over a year ago, and we took the initiative on this, that we plan to enforce and enforce aggressively. And again, we carved out a lot. There's resort zones, and the governor alluded to the fact, or Jerry alluded to the fact, there are a lot of legal vacation rentals. We didn't totally eliminate that, but we wanted to go toward the restoration of our neighborhoods. To that end, knowing what it means to families, and it was set up here today. People leave here. Some people leave of their own volition. Most of them are leaving because they're forced to leave. We want to stop that. We talk a lot about it in our administration, about the out-migration and what that cost us. So in that sense of responsibility, we cannot act more aggressively than we intend to act and fulfill that promise to the people who live here to put housing back there and make it available for them.
And I think it's probably worth mentioning again what they've already teed up on Maui, which is I think that they've already proposed the bill, or they're going to get the bill rolling immediately. We never see this kind of thing happen where the legislature gives us a bill, we sign it 2 days later, and the county takes action 2 days later. So it's kind of a new era. We're going to take a lot of action, but the mayor on Maui is already looking to bring 7,000 units back to people right away. And I think there's probably a lot more there, but this is clarifying a lot of the work they've wanted to do. And that's what we know that Mayor Blangiardi has done. And look, there are also short-term rentals on Big Island and Kauai that I'm sure those mayors are going to just assess because everyone needs housing.
Our next question will be Nikki with KHON2.
Sorry, Mayor, another one for you. Yesterday we did see Mayor Bisson kind of put a timeline, obviously for the urgency, but how quickly can something like this happen, and what complaints and concerns?
Well, we're in the process now. We have been in the process since we signed Bill 41. What we found out, though, is given the absentee ownership of these vacation rentals, in some cases, over 25% own 20 or more, they're pretty sophisticated. And as the old saying goes, power's never given up without a fight. They got pretty slick on us as far as beating us on our own software and our ability to detect and enforce. We have now countered, before even this legislation was signed, with better software, better capability of enforcement. And so as far as I'm concerned, what this does for us is it takes away the 30 days, gives us more authority. We're sort of spring-loaded, if you will, to be as aggressive as we can now. So our intent has been the same as all along. I'm going to go back to that point. I want to restore our neighborhoods. The integrity of our neighborhoods is very important to the fabric of our lives.
Last question is with Victoria, Honolulu Star Advertiser.
Hello. I'm not so sure if this is for mayor or governor, but how would you identify the 75,000 illegal STRs and crack it down? What does the process look like in converting them, or converting them into affordable housing units?
Okay. So we'll each weigh in a little bit. Maybe we'll have even some people from the research side of things come in and comment. First of all, they have very clear processes on what have been legal. And that's where we're able to quickly see about 15,000 units. People have gone through the process. They're in the right areas of towns where, more or less, where hotels are and where the hospitality industry exists. That has been more or less the place that we can accept short-term rentals. So there was that expectation. And then there's this vast universe of additional houses that over time either got grandfathered in, were never meant to be housing for visitors. As it was mentioned earlier by Representative Quinlan, if you walk up and down the streets of all sorts of places like Kailua, you see there, or Kohala, or Kona, you see a lot of properties that are definitely just being used as de facto hotels. That's never what our communities were meant to be. So geographically, it's pretty easy for us to see what has to happen. And as we move forward, what my hope is that we really drill down on where short-term rentals are okay, which is not many places. They should be near hotels, near communities that have already decided to accommodate visitors. And the rest of the community should be for local families who are nurses and doctors and firefighters and police and everybody, teachers, okay? So that's how we're going to do it. We actually have access now to data, the tax key maps. We can see where people have been paying taxes as though they are short-term rentals. I think that's a fair way to describe it. And so we'll be able to crack down on those. Specific, though, today to the Maui experience, and this is where Paele and lots of people were very, very focused. There were grandfathered in thousands of short-term rentals back 30 years ago. And again, I would encourage people to go and write about the Minatoya list. That was a decision that was made by, I believe, a Judge Minatoya, who said that that was an okay use back in the day. We never anticipated this environment 30 or 40 years later where the whole world would want to come and turn the county of Maui into a short-term rental vacation space. So we have to adjust. That's what we're doing. All of us have come together over this last year to say we need more housing. It's unanimous. We know that there needs to be more housing. So out of this tragedy grew partnerships. And I think it's worth mentioning, I'm going to go a little beyond your question, forgive me. I think it's worth mentioning that when you see, for example, the hotel leaders working with Local 5 very closely, completely in lockstep, and with ILWU, because sometimes there's a little, something going on, right? But when those guys get together and know unanimously we have to look out for our people, it's good. When you see the House and the Senate come together in one session, I think it was virtually unanimous. Was it unanimous even? It was real close. Yeah. Again. And to be quite frank, I'm not sure Lahaina Strong and I were communicating very well. And that's on me, okay, in the beginning. But as soon as we communicated, we all were on the same page, which is mainland folks who are making 400% of what they would otherwise be charging regular rents to our people, doing that to local families after a fire, and they still didn't want to rent to our people. That was just an abomination. And so that brought all of us together. So you never know which coalitions are going to emerge to make a big difference for our state, but I'm grateful to see it. And I think it's pretty special because it shows that we will actually solve problems. Even if we have some differences, we'll solve problems for the next 20 years in the future.
Mahalo, Governor. Now I'd like to ask the speakers to please join Governor Green up in the half moon so that we can proceed with the bill signing, which, Governor, will be taking place on your right.
Okay.
Let's get everybody in. If you can push in.
He's always
Yep, perfect. I cannot see you. Now I can.
I was a banker. Come right up front. This is shorter. Yeah.
Looking this way.
Okay. And this is really, more than anything, this is for Lahaina Strong and the people of Maui. That's it. All right. Only took 3 months. Unbelievable.
Okay, everyone looking this way. Reese, raise your
Okay,
hand.
we're gonna look here first. Ready? 3, 2, and Jerry, I can't see you. Sorry. Can you look?
Jerry, you're too small.
There you go.
Okay. 3, 2, and 1. Okay, I'm gonna go to Craig right here.
Thank you, everybody. Everybody has the camera. There you go.
Big smiles. It's a celebratory day. Every day. Everybody looks like, my gosh.
You're right to be cautious.
Okay, looking this way. Maybe a little action shot, some motion. There you go. News media, Mike Cutty, everybody got the shot? Alrighty, I'm taking this pen for the archives, mahalo nui. And let's do shots. So do we want the Senate, maybe if we can do the Senate first? Shots is in photos.
That was an incredible demonstration of action fast. I've seen even circumstances that were that clear still take freaking 3 years, 5 years.
Can we move this?